Jonathan Brooks slowly opened his eyes, only to be met by an endless expanse of ice. The cold bit into his skin, a harsh contrast to the warmth of the laboratory he last remembered. His breaths were shallow, visible in the freezing air as he tried to orient himself. He was an aerospace engineer, a man of science and reason, but nothing in his knowledge prepared him for this. The horizon was a flat, desolate white, stretching endlessly. No trees, no buildings, not even a hint of life, just an unrelenting, frozen void. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy and sluggish. His limbs, weighed down by the cold, refused to respond. Desperation mounted as he pushed against the icy ground with trembling hands, attempting to sit up. His fingers burned from the frost, and every attempt to rise ended in failure. Panic surged through him as he shouted into the emptiness, his voice raw and frantic. "Help, is anyone out there?" His cries echoed back at him, the sound distorted and alien in the vast silence. Minutes passed, or perhaps hours, he couldn't tell. Time seemed to stretch unnaturally in this frozen purgatory. Jonathan's heart sank as the realization dawned. He was utterly alone. Just as despair threatened to consume him, a soft, ethereal light appeared in the distance. It flickered like a willow, the wisp growing brighter and closer with each passing second. Jonathan blinked, thinking his mind was playing tricks on him. But the light persisted, solidifying into a figure. As the glow subsided, he saw her, a woman, but not like any he had ever seen before. Her tall, graceful form seemed almost otherworldly. Her hair, white as freshly fallen snow, flowed like silk in an invisible breeze. Her skin had a faint, translucent glow, and her eyes shone with an otherworldly blue light that seemed to pierce straight into his soul. "Jonathan Brooks," she said, her voice soft yet resonant, carrying a melodic echo that reverberated in the icy air. "Do not fear, you are here for a purpose." Jonathan stared at her, his mind racing to comprehend what he was seeing. "Who are you? Where am I? What's happening to me?" She smiled, a small, knowing smile that held both kindness and mystery. "I am Nira," she said simply. "This is my world. You were brought here to face a trial, to test your limits, and discover whether harmony can exist between our kind and yours." Jonathan's brow furrowed. "I don't understand. I'm just an engineer." "What does any of this have to do with me?" "More than you realize," Nira replied, stepping closer. She extended a hand toward him, her movements fluid and almost hypnotic. "Come, take my hand. To survive here, you will need my help." Jonathan hesitated, his mind battling between trust and caution. But as he looked into her glowing eyes, he felt a strange sense of calm. Reluctantly, he reached out and took her hand. The moment their fingers touched, a wave of warmth surged through his body. The frostbite on his hands faded, his limbs felt lighter, and for the first time since waking up, he could move freely. With Nira's help, he stood, his legs wobbling beneath him. Where are we?" he asked, his voice shaky. "This is a dimension that exists between worlds," Nira explained, her voice steady and calm. "A place of raw energy and infinite potential. Here, the rules of your universe don't fully apply. Physics, time, even life itself, everything here follows a different logic." Jonathan struggled to process her words as they began walking across the icy plain. The cold was still there, but it no longer bit into his skin with the same ferocity. Instead, it felt distant, as though muted by an invisible barrier. As they moved, the landscape began to shift. The endless ice gave way to towering crystalline structures that glowed with an inner light. The air shimmered with particles of energy, and translucent creatures floated gracefully overhead, leaving trails of luminescent blue in their wake. Jonathan couldn't suppress his awe. This is incredible," he murmured, turning in circles to take it all in. Nira watched him with a small smile. "It is beautiful, yes, but it is also dangerous. This world is alive, and it will test you at every turn." Her words proved true. As they journeyed deeper into this alien realm, they encountered numerous challenges. Strange, energy-based creatures appeared, some curious, others hostile. The terrain itself seemed to shift and change, with patches of gravity-defying landscapes and pockets of energy storms that threatened to consume them. Jonathan quickly realized that his earthly knowledge, while not entirely applicable, could still be useful. He used his engineering skills to construct tools and devices from the energy-rich materials around them, devising clever solutions to navigate the unpredictable environment. Through it all, Nira was his guide and protector. Her deep connection to the world allowed her to sense dangers before they appeared, and her natural abilities often saved them from harm. As days turned into weeks, their partnership deepened. They worked seamlessly together, their contrasting strengths complementing each other. Jonathan's logical mind and problem-solving skills were balanced by Nira's intuition and spiritual connection to her world. But it wasn't just their teamwork that grew stronger. Jonathan found himself increasingly drawn to Nira, not just her otherworldly beauty, but her strength, wisdom, and kindness. And Nira, who had lived in isolation for so long, was captivated by Jonathan's determination and ingenuity. One evening, as they rested under a sky filled with swirling blue and silver lights, Jonathan broke the silence. "If I pass this trial," he asked, "will I be able to go home?" Nira's expression softened, and for the first time, there was a hint of sadness in her voice. "Yes," she said, "if you choose to, you can return to your world. But if you leave, you can never come back. And everything you've found here, everything we've built together, will be lost to you forever." Jonathan fell silent, her words weighing heavily on his mind. Over the next several days, they had to face their greatest challenges yet. A massive energy storm tore through the region, forcing them to rely on every ounce of their ingenuity and trust in each other to survive. When the storm finally passed, they stood on a cliff overlooking a vast, glowing sea of energy. Jonathan turned to Nira, his decision made. "I don't want to go back," he said quietly. "My life on Earth, it's nothing compared to what I've found here, to what I've found with you." Nira's eyes widened, her glowing blue irises reflecting the swirling energy below. "Jonathan," she whispered, "do you truly mean that?" Jonathan stepped closer, the icy wind tugging at his coat as his breath mingled with the luminous mist surrounding them. He looked into her eyes, those windows to a world far beyond his comprehension, and nodded. "I've never been more certain of anything," he said, his voice steady despite the storm raging in his heart. Nira seemed to search his expression, her own face a mixture of hope, disbelief, and something deeper, something vulnerable. "If you stay," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "you will not only give up your home, your world, and everyone you've ever known. You will also change. This place, it reshapes those who choose to belong here. You won't be the same Jonathan Brooks who arrived." Jonathan considered her words, the gravity of her warning sinking in. "Nira," he said softly, reaching out to gently take her hand, "who I was before doesn't matter. I feel like I've been searching for something my whole life, and I didn't even know what it was until I met you. Maybe this place will change me, but if it means I get to stay here, with you, then I'm ready for it." Nira's lips parted, as if she wanted to say something more, but no words came. Instead, she simply squeezed his hand, her touch warmer than ever. The world around them seemed to respond to their connection. The glowing sea below them pulsed with light, and the stars above shimmered more brightly, as if bearing witness to the moment. Finally, Nira spoke, her voice steady but laden with emotion. "If this is your choice, Jonathan, then we must seal it in a way this world will recognize. A bond must be formed, a true connection between you, me, and the essence of this realm. Only then will the world accept you as one of its own." Jonathan tilted his head. "What kind of bond?" Nira took a deep breath, her glowing eyes meeting his. "It's not just a bond between us. It's a commitment to the land, to its energy, and to the life that flows through it. The process will tie your essence to this world forever. You'll feel its pain, its joy, its needs. And you'll feel me, my thoughts, my emotions, my being. We will be inseparable." Jonathan's heart raced at the thought. The idea of such an intimate connection was both exhilarating and terrifying. Yet he found himself nodding. How do we do it? Nira smiled softly, a mix of relief and affection lighting her features. Follow me, she said, turning toward a narrow path that wound down the cliffside. The descent was treacherous, the jagged rocks slick with frost, but Nira guided Jonathan with an uncanny grace. As they reached the base of the cliff, Jonathan saw a vast, glowing pool of liquid energy. It shimmered in every color imaginable, swirling and pulsing as though alive. The air around it hummed with a low, resonant vibration that he felt deep in his chest. This is the heart of the world, Nira explained. It's the source of all life and power here. To bond with it, we must both step into the pool and allow it to merge our essences. The process will be intense, but it will also reveal the truth of who we are to each other. Jonathan hesitated, staring at the radiant pool. He felt its pull, a magnetic force that seemed to draw him closer, yet he couldn't ignore the fear bubbling within him. What if it doesn't work? He asked. Nira placed a reassuring hand on his arm. It will, she said firmly. Because I believe in you, Jonathan. I believe in us. Her words bolstered his courage, and together, they stepped into the pool. The energy was unlike anything Jonathan had ever experienced. It wasn't cold or hot, it simply was, enveloping him in a sensation that defied description. As they waded deeper, the glow intensified, and the vibrations grew stronger. Jonathan could feel the energy seeping into his skin, his muscles, his very soul. He turned to Nira, who stood beside him, her translucent skin now glowing brightly, almost blending with the pool. She reached for his hands, and as their fingers intertwined, the energy surged. A wave of light erupted from the pool, enveloping them both in a cocoon of brilliance. Jonathan gasped as visions flooded his mind. He saw flashes of Nira's life, her childhood in this world, her solitude, her struggles to protect the land from the energy storms. He felt her pain, her longing, and her deep, unspoken hope that someone would one day join her. At the same time, Nira saw Jonathan's memories, his passion for engineering, his quiet moments of doubt, his determination to push boundaries. She felt his grief over lost opportunities, his joy in discovery, and his growing love for her. The bond deepened, intertwining their souls in a way that words could never capture. When the light finally subsided, they stood in the pool, still holding hands, but now something was different. Jonathan felt the world around him more vividly than ever before. He could sense the hum of the land, the rhythm of its energy, and most of all Nira's presence within him. "It's done," Nira said softly, her voice echoing in his mind as well as his ears. Jonathan looked at her, a newfound clarity in his gaze. "I can feel it, feel you, it's incredible." Nira smiled, her eyes glistening. "And now you are truly one of us. This world has accepted you, Jonathan. You are no longer an outsider." As they stepped out of the pool, the landscape seemed to transform around them. The ice and frost gave way to lush, crystalline growths, and the air warmed, filled with the scent of blooming, alien flora. The heart of the world had responded to their bond, reshaping itself in celebration. From that moment on, Jonathan and Nira's connection became the cornerstone of their new life. Together, they built a sanctuary that blended his engineering ingenuity with her deep understanding of the land. As the days turned to years, their bond only grew stronger, proving that love, trust, and unity could bridge not just two souls, but two entirely different worlds.